Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up
All that jam.
All That Jam, Quick Hit. Ryan Lerman on Ben Folds and Michael Buble.
All right, well, let's jump in. I've been trying to read up on you, and I get conflicting reports about what goes on. Were you with Michael Buble first, or Ben Folds, or?
Well, the first tour that I did was with Joshua Radin and Vanessa Carlton. Um, she was opening for him, and I played with both. And then I was in a band called Define Frenzy for a couple of years, and then I played bass with Ben Folds for a couple of years, and then I was with Michael Buble for about 5 years, and then John Legend, and then started producing more, and then started Scary Pockets when I was 30.
Wow, wow. So, how did you meet? How did you end up on the road with Ben Folds?
Through Jack, actually, who's my counterpoint, my partner in crime in Scary Pockets. Jack has a band called Pomplamoose, and Jack was speaking about Pomplamoose at a music tech conference, and Ben was on the panel, and they ended up doing a song together. Um, and and Ben had asked Jack if he would tour with him because Ben's bass player had just quit, and Jack said, well, Jack wasn't really trying to tour and recommended me, even though I didn't play bass. But I told that to Jack, and Jack said, well, I don't play bass. If he asked me to do it, you could do it. And so I went and bought a bass and learned. And Ben was, he probably suspected something, but he's good. He's good at sticking with people. He's like a band guy. I feel like he likes the imperfections in the people that he plays music with.
Right? Is it that much different to play bass and guitar?
Yes, it is that much different. Um, it's a big psychological shift. I mean, it's like you're listening from a different place in the room, um, and yeah, I mean, you have a whole different function in the band, and there is a different vocabulary. So, like when you're playing guitar, um, for whatever role you're sort of playing in the song, there's a long. I'm able to sort of like I kind of know a bunch of what a bunch of different guitar players might have done on a similar in a similar situation, and and because I hadn't spent time transcribing bass players like I had guitar players, I didn't really know, like what people might have done. I couldn't just like look at a chord chart and really play a song convincingly on the level. So I ended up transcribing literally every single song Ben had ever recorded. I could play the bass line exactly note for note as it was on the recording. I spent about 4 to 6 months just learning every bass line note for note, so that if he asked me to play, because he didn't give me a set list, he just said we leave in 6 months and I don't do rehearsals, so I'll see you at the first show. And I was just trying to be as prepared as possible.
That's crazy. So was there much improvising with Ben Folds, or was it pretty stick to the bones of the song the way it was recorded?
At the beginning, because I was not confident in my ability to really improvise on the bass, um, I was just playing the songs exactly how they were sort of recorded. And I mean, there's a lot of improvising inherent to pretty much any Ben Folds show, because he does this thing called "Rock This Bitch," where if somebody yells that from the crowd during in the middle of a show, that means he has to make up a song. And so we would do these basically every show. Somebody would yell that, and Ben would just start writing a song about whatever was happening at the time, and the band would kind of jump on and be trying to compose with him. So we were improvising in that way, and then I will never forget at the first show we were playing the Vic in Chicago, and during the Rock This Bitch, this is my first show ever with Ben, first show as like a bass player, and and then in the middle of the Rock This Bitch, he pointed at me and yelled bass solo, and everyone broke down, and I was just basically standing there in front of 2 or 3,000 people taking my first bass solo, just thinking about how many people there were in that audience that could probably be doing a better job than I was at the time.
Right, trial by fire.
Yes, right into the deep end.
All right, and so you worked with Ben a few years, and then Michael
Yeah,
Buble.
yeah.
That threw me a little bit. You pulled the guitar back out. How did you end up with him?
Well, I was recommended by a friend, I believe, and Bublé's music director, this guy Alan Chang, who's become a great friend of mine. He was a huge Ben Folds fan, and so I think the fact that I had, I came from a jazz guitar background. My good friend Brian Green in college had actually played with Buble in the early years, so I was familiar with him and the music, and I could kind of do that, the jazz stuff that was needed. And then I think the fact that I came from Folds' band was fun for Alan and maybe worked in my favor. Um, but but yeah, that kind of came about at a time when I was like struggling and didn't have any money and was living with my grandparents, and I just put out a solo record and that didn't really do much. And I just kind of, yeah, that opportunity came about, and it was a bit of a life raft, got me out of a relationship I shouldn't have probably been in at the time. uh
Got to go on tour, babe.
exactly, yeah. um so yeah, that's how that happened.
So how was that? How was working with him? I'm guessing I've never really listened to much Michael Buble. Buble. Uh, it's probably pretty. It's more a show. It was a set list every night, and the
Yes,
solos
yes.
were the same.
Yep, set list. Solos. I had solos here and there, and some of them I played like the record. Some of them I could do my thing. Um, but yeah, it was kind of like playing in the pit of a Broadway show, but you're on stage. In terms of like much more like being a cog in a huge machine. Just like huge set, lots of trucks with set pieces and a huge crew, and the band, there's 13 in the band, and different string players in every city. So it's a big operation. Set list stayed the same. You learned your parts and you played them, and it was a good thing to have done. And Buble, is a good guy, and was great to work for, and all that.
Yeah. So were you on the studio? Were you on his albums also, or were you only part of the live band?
I did some writing with him. I wrote a song with Larry Goldings specifically for Buble called "Half of the Way," and I demoed it and I played it for him, and he loved it. And then it was a saga with that song. We went into the studio. They were looking for producers. Pat Leonard was at one point going to produce it, and so Larry and I, since he had seemed to sort of lose track. He was just like getting so many songs thrown at him, and we weren't sure like where if he was still as into ours as he was at the beginning. And so we thought, well, let's go into the studio with some guys. And I said, Larry, who should we get? And he said, well, I could ask Pino and Steve Gadd. And so we went into the studio with Pino and Steve Gadd, and then Buble got wind of it and said, oh, just have Pat produce it, and that'll be the session. And we said, okay. And we did it. We recorded the song. It was pretty good. And then like 2 days later, Pat Leonard got fired, and we couldn't use anything that we'd done. And
No.
so, um, so yeah, that song actually didn't end up making that Buble record, but Alan and I ended up writing two or three others, that I think some of which made that record, and then Wolfpack ended up recording that Buble song, which is called Half the Way.
Oh, so that's how that happened. I have on
Yeah.
my notes that you collaborated with them. Very interesting. You were in the video with them too?
Yes.
Yes. Was
Yeah.
that fun? Did you like the video part?
Yeah, I mean, those guys became brothers to me. Those are some of my best friends, and I lived with Theo Katzman, who sang half of the way for a couple years, and so yeah, they all became like family, and that happened out of actually out of Ben Folds, because I was having breakfast with Ben one day, and he was telling me about a band that his daughter had played for him called Wolfpack that I'd never heard of. And we went home. He showed me the video. I said, "Yeah, I don't know these guys." And then I was home watching another Wolfpack video a couple weeks later, and the drummer looked very familiar. And I texted this guy that I had played a gig with maybe 3 or 4 months prior to that, and said, "Hey, are you in a band called Wolfpack?" And he said, "Yeah." And I knew him as a singer and a guitar player playing his solo music, and that was Theo. But in Wolfpack, he was had a beard and he was playing drums. I didn't know he played drums. And so, anyways, that's how we connected. We ended up, I said, "Man, Folds just turned me on to this. Like, let's all go get breakfast." So he brought Jack, and the four of us had breakfast. And afterwards, Theo and Jack and I went to a guitar shop, and we just became fast friends after that.
If you are enjoying All That Jam, please like and subscribe to our social media channels at All That Jam Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or visit our website, allthatjampod.com. Make sure to sign up for our email list and tune in every week for new episodes.
Also, look for full interviews on our YouTube channel. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long.